Hi everyone, and welcome to the second ever Frontiers Conversations webinar, this time organized by Frontiers in Microbiology. My name is Barbara. I am a publishing specialist in the journal, and I'm here today with my colleague Lydia. Before we hear from our speakers about the importance of food microbiology for sustainable development, allow me to briefly introduce what we do at Frontiers. Frontiers is an open access publisher with the mission to make science open for all. We support collaboration among scientists and run article collections, which we call research topics, that are led by diverse editorial teams and showcase the latest research around a specific theme. We also aim to support the UN Sustainable Development Goals through the research we publish, and I am therefore really excited to open the discussion about the important role microbiology plays there today. All three talks you will hear today are based around existing research topics, which are still open for submission. In case you are doing research in this field, you might be also interested in our sister journal, Frontiers in Sustainable Food Systems. We will be sharing a follow-up email after the webinar, and I will highlight some relevant topics there as well for your record. Here on the bottom is also our email and Twitter account. Do follow us on Twitter. And we will be generally most happy if you just get in touch with us should you have any further questions after the webinar, be interested in publishing with us or setting up your own research topic, or if you would like to collaborate with us in any other way. Before I hand over to our first speaker, just some logistics. Please know that in this webinar format, unless you are presenting, you won't be able to turn your microphone or camera on. Yes, that means we can't hear or see you, so feel free to have a snack while listening. If you have any questions or comments, please do submit them via the Q&A box. There will be some time for answering questions after each presentation and hopefully also in the end. Feel free to also say hi to everybody in the chat. If you are here today as a panelist, please keep your camera off and microphone muted at all times, except when presenting or answering questions. To ensure there is enough time for discussion, each presentation will last about 10 to 15 minutes. Lastly, please know the webinar will be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel afterwards. We will send you the link and you are welcome to share the video with your colleagues or use it as a teaching resource. That's all from me now. Again, please do submit any questions or comments to the Q&A box and we'll try to answer as many as we can in the limited time we have today. So first team presenting their exciting work and its importance for achieving zero hunger are Dr. Argyri, Dr. Doulgeraki, Dr. Tassou, and Dr. Hummerjohann, telling us more about current trends and approaches in food biopreservation technologies. Anthe, you can start sharing your screen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Argyri. Let me introduce our team. Me, Dr. Doulgeraki, Dr. Tassou come from the Institute of Technology of Agricultural Products in Athens, Greece. And Dr. Hummerjohann comes from Agroscope Bern in Switzerland. A few words for our research interests. We work on every step on food production from farm to fork, but specifically in the sector of food processing and preservation, we elaborate with application of novel technologies for food safety and quality. This may include natural antimicrobial and preservatives, such as essential oils, protective cultures, etc. Mild treatments, non-thermal technologies, as high-pressure processing. We have laboratory scale equipment in our institute. New packaging systems, such as active packaging, edible films, and others. Fermented foods and functional foods containing probiotics, prebiotics, etc. Isolation of microorganisms from traditional foods and exploitation of their different properties, such as probiotic, technological, protective, and their application in industries. And finally, application of modern and wrapping technologies for food analysis, such as FTIR, real-time PCR, and others. Moving to our presentation topic, which is biopreservation. Biopreservation can be defined as the use of microorganisms or their metabolites to extend the shelf life and enhance the safety of foods. The microorganisms that are usually applied are bacteria, yeasts, or bacteriophages that eliminate or suppress the growth. Excuse me. That eliminate or suppress the growth of pathogenic microbiota. Amongst bacteria, lactic acid bacteria are the most commonly used, such as protective cultures. On the other hand, bacteriophages can also be applied to confront foodborne pathogens in pre-harvest or post-harvest interventions. In general, the beneficial microorganisms can be categorized in the following groups. We have the starter technological cultures, which drive and control fermentation. They also improve digestibility and nutritional value of foods and enhance their sensory properties. We have the protective cultures, which may also take part in fermentation, are applied to increase shelf life and safety of foods. And in this way, we have reduction of product recalls and returns, reduction of food waste, and finally, they consist a natural solution instead of chemical preservatives, which is a consumer preference nowadays. Finally, we have probiotic cultures, which also may take place in fermentation. They survive throughout the GI tract. They're able to colonize intestinal cells. They may have prebiotic properties, and when consumed in appropriate amounts, they exert health benefits to the host. However, the applied cultures can be multifunctional cultures, which is the current trend. So we can apply in foods one or multiple strain cultures that have technological, functional, or protective properties and used in parallel with bioprotective metabolites. In this direction, there is a growing interest in the following research fields, which are included in our research topic in Frontiers Microbiology. These fields include the application of novel microbial cultures or metabolites in real food ecosystems, in situ studies, the application of bioagents in food packaging systems such as films, coatings, microencapsulation systems, the exploitation of the backstage mechanisms of the microorganisms' antimicrobial activity through chemical or molecular analysis, and the use of novel analytical methods to enlighten all the production line and preservation of these novel food products. In this concept, our team runs a very interesting project called Biotrust, which is a partnership between our institute, 2 universities, and 2 dairy industries. In brief, the objective of this project is to develop dairy products with enhanced quality and safety through the use of the multifunctional cultures, and the final goal is to produce biofunctional dairy products with prolonged shelf life, increased safety, and of course distinctive organoleptic properties that point out the origin of the product, such as the company or the area of production. Moving to the connection of our topic with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2 for Zero Hunger, it is reported that in 2019, over 2 billion people did not have regular access to safe or nutritious food. Even before COVID-19, food insecurity was already on the rise, and since then, the things only got worse. However, to achieve a zero hunger goal and subsequently to achieve food security, we have to make a multidimensional approach to assure safe and nutritious food and sustainable food systems. So let's see the connection of food microbiology and biopreservation to the zero hunger goal. For starters, this technology is an easy to apply technology, especially in the case of the adjunct cultures, which may be a part of the starter mixture. It's an easy to apply technology even from small scale food producers that were really hit hard by the nowadays crisis. It is also an environmental friendly solution. So we are talking about sustainable technology. we can achieve, as aforementioned, increased shelf life and safety, which means less recalls and returns, and of course, food waste reduction throughout the food chain. And thus, we can have enhanced food production and storage, higher product availability, and of course, easier access to quality and affordable food products by more and more people in the future. All the above contribute to designing food safety and food security policies for sustainable development and of the modern world. Thank you for your attention. I try to be short so we have time for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Lydia, do we have any questions so far?
We don't have any questions submitted to the chat, but anyone's welcome to step up and ask one now if they wish to.
In the meantime, I can ask a question myself then, before someone else will ask if they're interested. I was wondering, in your opinion, Dr. Argyri, do you think that biopreservation is already doing well on like an industrial scale? So can it be actually implemented for food enough to achieve the zero hunger goal or the enhanced achievement of zero hunger goal by 2030?
From our experience nowadays, and also in Greek industries, some types of lactic acid bacteria especially are applied as biopreservatives. This is an easy to apply technology, as I said before, especially in the case of cultures that are used in parallel with the starter cultures. So even a small scale company can use them. The cost is not very big. It's a small cost that can be applied in the product. So we can have all these good effects of biopreservation really soon, let's say. It depends on the technology, of course. More difficult technologies can be applied from larger scale producers, so they may take some time to get out in the production line. But in some cases, it's very easy to be applied, so each interesting company can bring them to their technologies.
That sounds promising. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Tassou.
Go ahead.
Yes, actually, all the fermented foods fall in this concept of biopreservation. So if we enhance and we certify, let's say, and the biopreservative cultures that exist already in the fermented foods, then we work towards to this direction. So we already know that food fermentation is a process that preserves the food. So if we improve, let's say, and enhance the content of cultures that we have tested already that they have specific properties, then we can assure that biopreservation will work.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Lydia, are there any other questions so far?
There are no other questions at this moment, Bara.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much, and we can proceed. We can proceed to our second speaker, which will be Dr. Winkelströter and her team, telling us more about natural antimicrobial agents for food preservation and biofilm control. Please then feel free to start screen sharing.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, the Frontiers Microbiology, for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I and my team that is responsible for this research topic. The title of this research topic is Natural Compounds and Novel Sources of Antimicrobial Agents for Food Preservation and Biofilm Control. And today we are going to link how this research topic can be helpful for food microbiology in zero hunger. Just an overview of the presentation. First, the editors are going to present themselves, and we are going to get in deep in the background, the objectives, the perspectives, summary, and the last, the acknowledgement. So let me introduce myself. My name is Lizziane Kretli Winkelströter. I have been a professor and a researcher at the University of West in São Paulo. And back into my education, I got the bachelor degree in pharmacy in 2006. I concluded my master, doctorate, and postdoctorate at University of São Paulo, and also in Brazil. And I have been a professor. I have been a professor and researcher at the same university since 2015. And my research interests are food control, foodborne pathogens, biofilm, and probiotics. Unfortunately, Dr. Eugenia is in another appointment, but she is a professor in microbiology at Faculty of Health Science Medical School, Democratos University of Thrace in Greece. She was also a coordinator of Master in Food Nutrition and Microbiome, and her research interests are microbiome, lactic acid bacteria, foodborne pathogens, microbiology, biofilm, and probiotics. Dr. Fabrizio, also as part of our team. Please, Dr. Fabrizio, feel comfortable to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm also a pharmacist, and by the master degree, I've been working with bacteriocins, mainly with food biopreservation. And in the PhD, I also worked with lactic acid bacteria from milk and cheese, aiming to use the proteolytic activity and antimicrobial activity of this bacteria. And also in the postdoctoral fellow, I've been working with food technology, mainly by the microencapsulation of probiotics and bioactive compounds, such as phenolic compounds and also flavonoids, etc. I've been working as a teacher and a researcher since from 2016, and my research interests are food technology, mainly functional foods and probiotics, food analysis, food chemistry, microencapsulation, and bioactive compounds. And now I'm going to pass the word to Lizziane. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fabricio. So let's move on to our research talk presentation. So to continue, we are going to talk about some important points.
I am sorry to interrupt. I am also here. So you present me, and I thank you very much because I follow two meetings at the same time.
Not a problem, Eugenia. Thank you.
Okay.
So to continue the presentation, to get in deep in this issue, the first topic that we are going to talk about is biofilm. So the concept of biofilm is a community of microorganisms that adhere to a surface and is surrounded about exopolymeric substance that is produced by themselves. On the literature, we can find that biofilms are related to about 80% of microbial infections, but they are not only present on the disease, for example, they are also present in environment, biotechnology, and in the food processing environment. Biofilm may lead to serious consequences. For example, food spoilage, transmission of disease, equipment corrosion, reduced shelf life of the products, may impair the heat transfer process, may cause adulteration of the process and subject it to recall, and also may increase the financial losses. And the second point that we are going to talk is food preservation. There are a long time that people are using some methods to avoid food contamination and to increase the shelf life of the food products. And one way to get this food preservation is to add chemical food preservatives on that products. For example, sulfates, benzoic acids, nitrates, and some studies has been associated these products to some health problems. For example, eczema, cancer, allergies, the higher risk of hyperactivity in children, and also maybe toxin in some situations. So all of these increase the safety concern about the use of that chemicals on food. In respect to that, we research in the literature some data to show you how this research topic is important. We estimated that about 25% of all food supplies can be lost by food spoilage. About 10% of global food supply is lost by microbial biofilm. About $2 billion is lost in dairy industry due to the presence of biofilm related to the bovine mastitis. And also about 25% of food poisoning outbreak is associated to the food cross-contamination, mainly because of the presence of biofilm in that environment. So all those numbers are impressive, and they show us how this topic deserves attention and how we need to do we need alternative strategies to maintain the quality and the safety of the foods. And nowadays, an alternative that we have that is gaining much attention with the consumers is the use of natural compounds, mainly because of two major factors. The first factor is because of misuse of antibiotics, because this may increase the resistance and also increase the tolerance to some preservative methods. And in the second point is because nowadays we are getting much information and people are awareness about the impact that these chemicals can bring to our lives. If we have a look at this figure here, we can see the source of these natural compounds. So we can find them in plants and animals and microbial sources. And what should we do now? We should investigate and see how of them can be used as an alternative strategy for food control. So this research topic has the aim to provide novel sources of to use in the food preservation and food control by the use of some substances, for example, bacteriocins, essential oils, probiotics, and nanoparticles, for example. And our perspectives with this research topic is to help the food microbiology for zero hunger. This research topic was submitted in the last year and it was approved by the end of 2020. And we are now working on it. We already got about 600 views. We already has 4 articles submitted, and our deadline is until May of 2021. So if you have any interests or if you want to get more information about this research topic, you can visit our page at Franchise Microbiology website. In summary, reducing all food losses will result in a more secure global food system, and we believe that natural compounds have an important role to control foodborne pathogens biofilm, enhance the food production and storage, combat the food waste, and guarantee the food safety. And to finish this presentation, I'd like to give the acknowledgement to Franchise Microbiology, the Western University of São Paulo, Democratic University of Tracy, and Western University of Bahia. Thank you for listening. If you have any question, I'll be pleased to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizziane. Biofilm is definitely a big issue in the food industry, and it's great to see that what the impact what of an impact the microbiological research have. So I would again have one question myself, and that is, what do you see as the main blockers for natural compounds to be implemented more broadly for biopreservation?
Yeah, I believe that before we use them as official method to avoid biofilm and to use as a preservative, I believe that we need to check, for example, the toxicity of these compounds. We also need to check how can we produce them in larger scale for the industry. So we need to check all these issues before use. And also they need to be regulated for some regulatory agents, for example, FDA. Here in Brazil, we use Anvisa, and all of these need to be approved before we go ahead. It's not just because it's from plant, for example, we can truly agree that this is safe. We need to check all these problems that can happen about these compounds before use this in the real life, for example.
Okay, thank you very much. Lydia, do we have any questions in the Q&A box?
No, we have no further questions at this time, Bara.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And last but not least will be Dr. Wang on advances in microbiological risk assessment, so taking a bit different perspective on food microbiology for zero hunger. Dr. Wang, you can share your screen now.
Okay, thank you, Bara. So is it okay?
Yes, we can see your screen. Feel free to start.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, friends. This is Wang from Qingdao Agricultural University in China. It is our great honor to be invited to attend the webinar for the microbiology for the sustainable development goals, zero hunger. I gonna to give a presentation on behalf of our editorial team of the topic of technological advances in microbiological risk assessment. This topic was edited by Professor Dr. Applegate, Dr. Forghani, Dr. Tassou, Dr. Zhang, and me. So in this presentation, I'd like to introduce the change and strategies of microbiological risk assessment. I will present it through 4 parts, including background, history, development of MRA, and finally, I will introduce of our team members. First, the background. That is because the theme of the presentation is about SDG 2, zero hunger. The goal is there is no food security without food safety. Now, before we know, the June 7 is the World Food Safety Day, launched by the United Nations. We know that this indicated that food safety is everyone's business, but why we still concerned so much about food safety? Because the food safety facts requires we pay more attention on food safety issue every year. Many people got ill and died every year. So these diseases are entirely preventable, and we all have a role to play in making food safe. So what threatens our lives? Normally, we know there are chemical, physical, and biological hazards threatening our lives. But for the biological hazards, including pathogenic bacteria, bacterial toxins, virus, is difficult to control, and it's difficult to control. So this figure shows all the factors to may affect the food safety in outer environment. And here shows many examples about foodborne illnesses. So every year, have many foodborne illnesses were reported. This table shows the list of common foodborne pathogenic bacteria, and for example, Salmonella, Staphylococcus aureus, and Bacillus cereus is the most common pathogens. And we know that, for example, Listeria monocytogenes, and they can grow under refrigerator temperature. So this is harmful for human health. So how to deal with it? So we have to turn to risk assessment. A risk assessment was originally used in economic field, but now and afterwards it applied to food industry. And the microbiological risk assessment is designed for microbial hazards. So we should consider many facts during each stage of the food chain, from production to harvest, processing, storage, distribution, something like that, and all the way to prepare the food or consumption. And based on the estimates of risk, we can make a decision to avoid it happening. So first, let's see the history of MRA. MRA is a part of risk analysis. Risk analysis consists of risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication. Risk assessment is a science-based method. It aims to develop risk estimates. And based on the risk estimates, we should define the problem and confirm the food safety objective. This is policy-based. And after we finish risk assessment and risk management, we can conduct risk communication. Communication is an interactive exchange of information and opinions concerning risk. It aims to make an optimal decision to develop control measures. For risk analysis, the final purpose is to make a best decision and a standard based on the results from the risk assessment. So because of the limitation of the time, presentation time, I cannot introduce each slide because I prepared too many slides. So I just take a look at the structure of risk assessment. It includes 4 steps: hazard identification, hazard characterization, exposure assessment, and risk characterization. So this is the MRI composition. And later I will show the figure to show how to conduct risk assessment. And this is the history of the mRNA, and it started in 1960, and now in 1999, FAO and WHO released the principles and guidelines for conduct microbiological risk assessment. Last year, WHO and FAO updated the draft of the guideline. I believe it will be released soon for the second new revision, new version of the guideline. This is the number of mRNA-related papers. This figure shows people and government shows more attention for the mRNA because it is very important ways to control for the safety issues. So this figure shows risk management. When we conduct management, make a decision, we should consider through two levels. One level is the country level. It is about food safety objective. Another level is optional food chain level. It is for the operator or for the company. When we conduct a risk assessment, we should consider the whole food chain. And the third part, I will show how to develop mRNA. When we conduct, as introduced above, mRNA, it consists of four steps. When we conduct mRNA, the most important thing is collect information. In each step, we need to collect the more information. The more, the better. And the accuracy of the information it can support the strong support for the final decision and the estimates. So in the hazard characterization, normally we should collect the monitoring data of the consumption data or monitoring data. This figure shows the ways to how from the raw materials to consumption. As mentioned before, we should consider the every stage of the food chain, from production of materials to the consumption. And we should consider the cross-contamination in each stage of growth of bacteria or reduction of the bacteria. And finally, we give estimates. So this is the ways. This is the growth model development for the risk assessment and dose response model. And we should consider the cross-contamination. And here we should develop a growth predictive model. So finally, we can use an at-risk software to conduct simulation. So also we can make some scenario analysis, and we can set different scenarios based on our hypothesis, because sometimes we cannot collect the target data we expected. If we didn't have sufficient data, maybe we cannot conclude, we cannot conduct accurate microbial risk assessment. So this is the different scenarios, and we can got different results based on the hypothesis. Finally, I'd like to introduce the research interest of our editorial team. Our research topic is technological advances in microbiological risk assessment, and we have 5 team members, but because of the time difference, Professor Applegate and Dr. Forghani didn't attend the webinar, and so I just give a brief introduction for them, and later Dr. Suo will introduce himself. Professor Dr. Applegate is from Purdue University. His research is focused on molecular approaches to develop platforms for detection of pathogenic bacteria in virus matches. And his research focused on the detection method based on bacteriophage. And his research is about bacteriophage-based detection and inactivation of pathogens, use of bioluminescence for in-situ examination of bacteria physiology, and bacteria detection and inactivation. Dr. Forghani is from IEH laboratories and consulting group. His work is mainly focused on practical food waste mitigation, and here shows some examples of how to help to the industry for the food waste mitigation. And this is Dr. Suo. Maybe Dr. Suo can introduce himself. Hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I'm Biao. I come from China, Henan Agricultural University. I'm now an associate professor in China. So I'm very honored to can attend this topic and as a guest editor, and I'm very honored to have a chance to introduce myself here. My research interest is food microbiology and food safety of cold chain food. And I got my PhD degree from Shanghai Jiao Tong University in 2010. And I have 2 experience in United States, and firstly in EIC, U.S. Department of Agriculture, as a visiting scholar, and the last two years ago, from 2018 to 2019, I was a visiting scholar in Purdue University, and almost a neighbor level in from Dr. Wang, Dr. Wang. Now, my research interest includes the predictive microbiology, and especially which is very closely with the research topic about risk analysis. And sometimes I also use the SEM and TEM to focus on the mechanical of the molecular biology, to research some mechanism behind the micro resistance to some chemical or some biochemical methods. Sometimes I also use when I was in the PhD degree, when I was a PhD student, I used develop some molecular detections for some foodborne pathogens. And now I also focus on the non-thermal processing and proteomic analysis and ion-seq analysis, and sometimes also use the microbiome analysis to do some research about how the fermentation food get the special smell or something like that. So I'm very glad to have the chance to collaborate with everyone. So thank you very much. Dr. Wang?
Yeah, the last member is Dr. Zhang. He came from Dalian Polytechnic University. His research interest is about detection of foodborne pathogens. This is a recent study. Because of time is due, so I just take a look of my introduction. I'm associate professor from Tsinghua Agricultural University. My research interest is about fundamental research, fundamental and application of functional water, including electrolyzed water and plus activated water. And second is predictive microbiology and microbial risk assessment. So that's all. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Bauer's invitation and efforts for this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. That's all.
Thank you, Jun. Thank you for giving us a brief introduction of Amare and also to Qingdao. I appreciated the photos on the last slide.
Welcome.
It definitely is of high importance to for safe food production, and I know that we had a limited time today, but I trust that any of our attendees are welcome to reach out to you if they were interested to discuss anything in further detail. Lydia, are there any questions for Dr. Wang?
There are no questions in the chat at the moment, but I actually have one of my own I'd love to ask. Really interesting conversation and presentation from Dr. Wang there. In terms of application of microbial risk assessment to the actual food industry, how do you go about making sure that there's great collaboration between researchers like yourself and the policymakers who might implement these practices in the real world?
Sorry, how to use this method used for the industry?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but microbiological risk assessment normally is conducted by the government because this method is, how to say, it depends on huge data collection. But at present, it's hard to use for the industry. So. And now we generally collaborated with some government department, for example, for the safety assessment center in China. Till now, I didn't find a suitable way to make a collaboration in some for the company, something like that.
Okay, thank you so much for that response, Dr. Wang. I actually have another question in the chat for our previous speaker, Lizziane. And we have a question that is, do the antimicrobials released from the preservatives have any effect on our normal flora? So that will be for our previous speaker, Lizziane. If you could answer that, that would be great.
Okay, thank you for the question. We believe that there are a long time that chemical preservatives have been used. And there are some studies that show that they can modulate the gut microbiota. And that's why this is another question that we are bringing this research topic, because the natural compounds, some of them will not change the natural microbiota. For example, bacteriocins, they are digested on our body, so we can use it in the food, and in our body they may be digested. The probiotics, we can put it on food, and in our body they could help to modulate our microbiota. And also, for example, the phenolic compounds, they can not be absorbed by our gut, but they also help to balance the gut microbiota. So this is why it's important to search for natural compounds, because the ones that we are using by now, yes, they can modulate, for example, the gut microbiota. But the natural compounds, we saw that some it's good, but we need to investigate more into getting deep in that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizziane, for providing such a well-rounded response to that question. We just have another one, and this is addressed to all the panelists. The question is, what other fields do you believe food microbiology most needs to collaborate with in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2? I feel like we can let anyone take the floor who wishes to at this point, so just jump in if you have an answer.
Well, I believe that, for example, we can study about the intelligent food. For example, artificial meat, it's important for the sustainability. It's important field that we need to study and to check to help us to combat the zero hunger. I believe that the intelligent food is a good topic to invest in.
Perfect, thank you. If anyone else has an answer to this, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we can hand back over to Bara for her final discussion.
All right, so thank you very much to all the speakers. It was really inspiring. Thank you for engaging with the questions as well. If you do have any further questions, just email us afterwards. Thank you all for attending too. I hope you enjoyed the webinar as much as we did and perhaps learned something new. Please fill in a short survey after leaving and don't hesitate to email us or follow us on Twitter with any feedback or questions you might have. That's all from us today. Thank you again and have a lovely rest of your day.